Okay. Hi, everybody. Hi, Alexis. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are
Uh,
you?
yeah, doing good. So, hello, everybody. I'm Ken Stearns. I'm the host and creator of the Regular Jar podcast. Also, the host here at the Jar Foundation podcast, where we are kind of exploring some solutions to the mental health crisis going on across the U.S. And I don't think we can affect, much. I certainly don't want to say the world, but there is a mental health crisis, definitely, I'm sure, globally. I've seen it in my 200 interviews across 60 cities. And so what I've kind of, taken a step back after doing a lot of the shows, taken a little bit of a break and starting this show where I can bring on people who can share their slice of their journey, through the mental health space, either as a patient or an advocate or a policymaker or somebody kind of on the fringe trying to help. And everybody, I think, has their own kind of little story in the mental health journey. Certainly we've all had some rough days, some rougher than others. But Alexis has got, just looking at your background and your journey, your work career, I'm sure you have a pretty interesting story. I,
I do.
I
And
really, yeah, and I'm really interested to hear it. So let's just maybe spend a few minutes about who you are today, maybe just what you're doing today, what you're, how you, and then kind of maybe give us a little bit how you got there. And then we can talk after that a little bit about about the mental health piece and what can we do better, differently, and what are you doing and to kind of help. Just
absolutely.
fire away.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm Alexis Story. I am a health and a life coach and a yoga teacher. So my journey is to help people through a little bit of the different modalities, but bringing them all together.
Mm,
Um, and currently, I see clients, and then I also work at a studio. I see private clients for yoga, and that's kind of me right now. And I also just got accepted into grad school in
yes.
counseling. So I'm kind of what I found with life coaching is that I absolutely love it, and it is my jam, right? Like health coaching is me on a personal level to the T. That's how I got into it, right? I'm
Okay.
healthy and fit, and I work out, and people wanted me to help them all the time. And, I knew stuff about the gut health because I had gut health issues. But with the life coaching, and when I tell you about my story, you'll learn that I wanted to be a therapist since I was 15. So life coaching was kind of like my cheat
Oh
to
yeah,
get into
yeah,
that way.
yeah. Okay.
However, yeah, but I learned such really amazing tools that I wouldn't change it at all because the coaching that I do is the training is it's phenomenal.
Mm,
It's called neuro linguistic programming or NLP. You might have heard of it.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's really and it can help in ways that therapy can't, and also get people to somewhere else, which therapy sometimes stays in the past.
I do love NLP. NLP is a big thing for me in the insurance industry. It's a very yeah, I don't know where you picked it up, but it's definitely alive and kicking inside the insurance industry.
Yes, and so yeah, it is part of my life coaching, my curriculum. It was literally an NLP course, life coaching course, and then it was a master course as well.
Hmm.
So, but just to get to circle back
Yep.
with the mental health is that I found that I really like deeper work with my clients because I personally have had so much therapeutic experience and on a personal level, business level as well. And so where I felt like I was thriving too with my client was even with some borderline therapeutic work that was like inner child work. And then also there's a
Oh,
new type of modality that really is only blossomed. It's blossomed in the last several years, but it's really not been around for that long. It's called IFS, Internal Family Systems. So I've taken some trainings on that, and that is just, I mean, a coach can do IFS, but I also wanted to have the ability to feel like I was ethically, if I
okay.
bordered on some of the deeper questions, like even though I know I can handle it, but I wanted to make sure that I was ethically and licensed
Yeah.
with it. So yeah.
So interesting. So that's exciting. So you're going for, and so how long is the program?
So the program is, I mean, you can do it in a year and a half for the accelerated. You can do it in about 2 years
Hmm.
for the normal course, and you can do it in about 2.75 for part time. So I'm starting off on part time. I'm just going to see how it is. just since I'm trying to make a living and I've got all these like different places I have to
Yeah.
be, so yeah, I may though move if I really find, I know I'm going to love the coursework just because
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
psychology is just like me. But I think if I can handle it, I would like to be able to maybe add in another class so that I can finish a little bit quicker. So 3 years, we'll say 3 years right now.
Yeah. Well, I just put a little marker out there. You've got momentum. You're doing the most important thing, which is the first step.
Yes.
And, it's once you start going, hard to stop. It's a lot harder to stop than it is to start.
If it's been since I was 15, and that was a long time ago, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I was a long time. Oh, actually, you can probably figure it out from my LinkedIn, actually.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go back and do a little math.
Oh, that is what all the people for job interviews say always. They're like, they think I'm young, and then they look at my LinkedIn, they're like, those two don't match. You're probably pretty old.
What about gut health? What did you learn? Anything about that? We talked briefly about that. Is there a connection between gut health and the mental health? I mean,
So much.
in your journey, what did you, as a patient, but also with a keen view as being a therapist in yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a patient, so back in 2000, I'd say 7, maybe before that, it even started that I experienced like extreme bloating, and I couldn't digest food very well, and it was really my mood was affected.
Oh, for
And
sure.
yeah, and inevitably it was. I mean, I don't mean to get graphic, but it's like there's
It's okay. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
IBS, so it's irritable bowel syndrome,
Oh,
and so it
yeah.
can be IBS with diarrhea or with constipation, and so mine would flip back and forth, right?
Oh,
But the worst was when it would just like my digestion would just stop,
stop. Yeah.
and it was like I couldn't even eat. So, and having like an eating disorder growing up, that worried people because, but I'd be like, look at my stomach, it's like way out to here. So
Yeah.
of course
Yeah.
I go to the doctor, and they at the time it was
They don't know it.
well, it's like, hey, take this one drug that makes you go to the bathroom all the time, right? And like, I don't even know what they have for IBSD, but inevitably, I decided to just try to work more with like holistic, like foods,
Right.
teas, detoxing the body to see like what was going on with me. I got really into, I got way more into health than I already was at the time. And I was already into health, looking at like how acidic the body is, probiotics. Like I learned just so much about the body and putting things in my body. And I would say that it was a journey, right? Because I would have
It should be a journey.
of like remission, right? But then I would also have periods where, okay, so I would travel for work and I would eat the foods, take people out, right? The whining and the dining. And I would come back and maybe I only did it twice and I would be like taken out. As in I'd spend one whole day like sleeping, and then I would have depression. It was just crazy. And it still can happen because I'm not always going to be perfect with my diet. Like I'm not, but I've now kind of learned this kind of, it's like, okay, if I go off and I can't go off too far, but it can have like lasting effects, as in like 6 weeks later, right? You're still affected from what you ate like 6 weeks ago that triggered your IBS or took your
if it's poison, right? If it's poison to your body in a way, it's going to be around for a while.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, it's really about the gut microbiome. So that's what's going to enable you to absorb the nutrients from the food. And you're like 80% of your serotonin, which is like your feel good neurotransmitter, is in the gut. So there is an actual gut brain connection, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. That's legit. Like I don't have like the scientific evidence right here in front of me, but if you look it up, it is.
So then obviously if you're having IBS, if you're having difficulty with your digestion, everything else, that is going to mess up your mood. Your whole mood.
Yeah. And then think about mental health in terms of addiction, right? So because alcohol is one of like a number one thing for like to mess up your gut health because it's pure sugar, right? So you're
Yes.
basically feeding the good bacteria in the belly, right? And if you're an alcoholic, then you're probably you're not working out, or you're not like, if you're drinking, I mean, you may be, but you may have some serious nutritional deficiencies. So there's like a correlation there too, is that you can have serious gut health issues with alcoholism.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
Huberman talks about it. He did a podcast a while back on how alcohol is like the number one thing. I mean, Huberman has everything on his podcast for
Who is it again?
Huberman, the Huberman
Huberman.
Lab. He like went to
Oh,
Stanford. Oh my gosh, you have to check him out. Now we're on live
oh,
and people can go check him out. Oh my gosh, he's like amazing.
Huberman.
Huberman, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm writing that down.
Yes.
Check it. I'd love to
He's
see
the
what
real
people
deal.
are talking about. So what else you want to, what else you want to share about your, the journey of going through, I think finding help along the way. Is it there? Is it easy to find? What else can we do for people? Because you've been a retail client.
I have. I've been a retail client since I was 13.
Okay.
So, you know, it's interesting. I think there is way more because of social media, right?
Yep.
The stigma is slowly but surely becoming less and less. Like even on my own Instagram page of Alexis Story Coaching, I have said more things about my mental health than I would have 3 years ago. And it's a little tricky, right? Like maybe it's not appropriate, and then sometimes it is appropriate. But I think what we're coming to is there's so many more information is being transferred so much more. So there is help out there.
Yes.
And you're gonna find it if you want it, right? But what the thing is that people are so alone with the internet, right? Like you feel like you're with people, but you're not. And then you're comparing. It's a huge thing for our youth of today, right?
Agree with that.
Actually take the stimulus away of the internet or just like electronics so that they can come back to themselves. Because then there's a whole thing of what like the blue light does to our hormones, right? As well. It's like we're just in like we're in an era where it's like mental health is out there and available, or mental health help is out there and available to have, but we're also in a space where it's like food is horrible, we're losing nutrients in the ground, and we're all on social media all the time and our computers, and so we're just like fighting this battle.
It is kind of I mean, there's no doubt there's a direct correlation. I mean, I won't say there's a direct correlation. I'd say you could overlay the maps and you'd see a correlation. I don't know if they're at all related, but social media and mental health, the rise of social media and the rise of mental health kind of look like a dancing partner. And it's not, I wouldn't say that's conclusive evidence, but it's definitely, you may want to think about it, especially when we understand how the dopamine hits. Yeah, it's right within the lines. And you know how dopamine hits and affects people. And I was talking yesterday with Matt and forget that with Brad. Yeah, with Brad Markey and Matt Brown from the Chimney Trail Company. Okay. And they've got a great product. It's a CBT product, which teaches it's a box, and it's like a play set, if you will. You open up the box, and you kind of got this activity, and it helps teach you about some part of the CBT spectrum, somewhere one of those 10, these kind of 10 falsehoods that are exaggerations the mind plays with you.
When you say CBT, you mean like cognitive behavioral therapy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it helps educate you on what it is and how the mind lies to you. And they've got this great interactive product. So just, super interesting conversation around understanding how the mind works. Right.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy how we can program the mind one way, right? Through our behavior. We can program our behavior from the mind, right? Like there's two ways to do it. Like
Ooh,
behavioral psychology says, if you do this so many times, you will change the way you think, right?
okay.
And
Yes.
cognitive behavioral says it's a
If
little
you
bit of both, right? But if you change the way you're thinking, then your behavior will change. So,
That's more of an absolute, it feels like, right? You're like, I got, and if you keep doing stuff, talking about it, yeah, I think like doing it is for sure the better way.
so I think that's one of the things. There's many factors of why Alcoholics Anonymous is like
Yeah.
is like the number one tool for alcoholics. I think that, and it's like behavioral, right? It's
Yeah.
behavioral, but it's also cognitive because like when you actually do the work of the 12 steps, why 12 steps is so prolific with everything these days, codependency, sex, emotional ones now. I mean, there's just all these 12 step overeating. But it's a behavioral and a cognitive. So it's behavioral as in go do this every
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
right? Do these things. And that's your habit that you're forming, right? And when you're going to these meetings, cognitively, you're getting this input of like spiritual and in the solution, not victim mentality, right? So, and then you have to do the work, which is actually like where your cognition begins to change. And then
It
there's the
forms.
whole spiritual factor that adds into it. So,
Yeah. I think that's a strong part of it for sure. Definitely the people that I've met in the 12 steps, the spiritual part is a real, almost most of them somehow come home spiritually first in a way. They end up in that place. Um, these
yes,
some of the
I'm in
stories.
recovery myself, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, um, yeah, so it's interesting. The stories that I've had, a lot of them are really around. It gets to the, you know, okay, God, like I'm here, like I'm banging on the door now. Okay, I've banged on every other door. I've screwed everything else up. This is the last door. It feels a lot like that from the conversations.
Yeah.
How some of the people I've talked to end up getting in the door, of the 12 steps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I'm, I'm sure every journey is different.
Yes, every journey is different. And then if you had mentioned just like what is there help out there? What is the just in case I didn't touch upon that. I mean, I think
Hmm.
the government tries, right, with some
Yes.
ability, but it's like there is an issue too with like it's also a money maker, right? So the private sector has come in as well for like treatment centers and things. So
Hmm.
what's great to hear about like your interest in it and nonprofit and getting the word out is just that it's not that it is a nonprofit, right? That you're considering starting
Yes.
or
Yeah.
because that is where because I have worked also in the behavioral health where I was in marketing or basically sales for treatment centers.
Yeah.
So, which is a great thing. You know, people need treatment, but it becomes like this how many heads are it? It's called heads in beds. Like how
Heads
many
in,
heads?
I know.
Yeah, you know.
I
So,
just heard that the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
yeah. And somebody said to me one time that said, I mean, it was just the craziest thing that said you can sell shitty treatment.
Oh, I'm sure. It's not going to be any different than every other market or product or solution, right? There's going to be great actors, and there's going to be not so great actors, and that part I can't. I don't think you can fix. Just try to be a good actor.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good point. But there is a lot of help out there, and I think, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the market changes
Hmm.
in that aspect. And so a theory I came into recently is that when I was thinking about how this like oversharing, right, on social media but how it's so great, but
Yeah. Yeah.
what I think we're gonna start seeing is like because of this social media and the electronic and the fakeness, right? That we can have
Yeah.
and like, get lips done, hair done, everything can be fake. I mean, for women at least, right? But I think we're going to get this like keep pushing. Like people are going to keep wanting to share their stories of like what they've been through because we want the raw, we want the authenticity, we don't want the fakeness anymore. And we want to hear what your pain was, right?
Ooh,
That's what I think.
interesting.
I think we hunger for it. We hunger
Oh,
as the
yes.
Yeah, and it's part of
Yeah.
the spiritual thing that too, that more and more, right? Why is breath work so popular? Why is, Wim Hof, well, that's
Yeah.
breath work, but even, and it's a physical thing. Like, why are people all talking about getting in cold plunges, right? Because we're
Yeah.
physically suffering. But if we don't start to understand the connection, so then we'll move to the mind. We'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. My mind is making my body like this, right? And that being at a cold plunge helps me to like develop discipline and stronger,
Mm.
right? As well as inflammation and all the other things like the heat shock
Yes. Right.
proteins that it does. Like, there's so much science on it. But and then we'll hit the mental part, and then it'll be spiritual, right?
It's
Then it'll be like, who am I? Why am I here? Like, is there a God? Do I accept like this outside thing? And I that's where I just think that like our country has to go. It's, or not country, I mean, but like the world.
human. Yeah. The human spirit. I love that idea of this kind of evolutionary idea. We're going from one and then the next step, and then the final one is going to be back to that age. Where did I come from? What happens after all of this?
Yeah. And if the
Where
Big
did
Bang
I,
hasn't
meaning where did
hit,
man, where did the human being come from? And what are we here for? What's our purpose? That, you want to, that's some real conversations.
yeah. Yeah. And I find that the younger people, right, the 20 somethings, blow my mind,
I
right?
know. Yeah. They're,
So
they're so cool.
they're incredible.
Yeah.
They're non-judgmental. They're like not into as much duality, right? Like that's why I think there's more fluidity even in sexuality, right? Even in
Mm,
genders. Like a lot of people, my age, like and above, are kind of like really confused by that. But I'm like, I think there's just an evolution going on. I mean,
it's
it is a
interesting.
spiritual evolution. I think it's like an energetic one. So this is where I get really out there.
Okay. Oh, I like it.
That there's different energy coming to the earth. Like they actually, like there is a report from, I think, either the Pentagon or NASA about energies that we don't know why there's this extra solar energy coming to the earth. Yeah. Like we're not sure why. So the thing is,
Oh,
like in my spiritual teachings, which is a whole nother podcast.
oh, I love it.
But
Another door.
yes, exactly. Another
And who is Alexis? Okay.
You're like, do you really want to talk about yourself over
Ooh, I want
here?
to crack that door open a little bit.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, let me just shove my whole theory and life in there. But yeah, I just think the energy is shifting, and that the 20 somethings are the embodied. The 30 somethings are a little confused, right? They're in between.
Yeah, they are in between.
The 40 somethings were the result of the baby boomers and a lot of confusion and issues, right? But the 20 somethings are like this, their exposure to this energy is like on another level. That's why they're like killing it, like creatively and just with, I don't know, just the ones I've met, and that could be, but they just blow my mind.
Yeah, I had so much fun on my journey. I think probably I had about a half dozen people under 25 on the journey. Not a lot, not a lot. And maybe it's more if I go back and count, but man, they were so exciting to interview
Yeah.
because the whole judgment and measurement of people is way, way different than when I was a kid. Now, there's a lot of tough stuff growing with them as well. There's a lot of mental health issues, and we talked
Yes.
about that with all of them, and how they look at it. But their heads are on pretty square. I feel they see things. They see through the garbage of, and then just the lens of how social media, even though they're in it, they see the lens, right? They see the lens of the truths of what's really going on in humanity and society. And they're they're great humans. I think we've got a good generation of humans coming up.
I would agree. And they're really, a lot of them are hugely successful.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're right. On the content and creative side.
Right. And or like even making money, like a couple I know, they're in their 20s, they started their own real estate firm. They're just making great money, and then they go travel for 3 months at a time, Like,
Yeah.
okay, you got your shit together.
They're doing stuff different.
Yeah.
They are doing stuff different. Oh, check my time. But we're doing good. I think maybe it's kind of like some thoughts around It's been a great conversation so far. I love we cracked the door a little bit on the spirituality, the other side of the spirituality, the universality, maybe,
Mhm.
what's behind door number two, uh,
Yeah.
with Alexis. I think we'll explore that one more with the jar.
Okay.
So Alexis is going to be a guest for sure on the jar. We'll catch up together, get you on the calendar when I restart around the 22nd. And for sure, that is way more opportunistic for opening up the other doors. I've got a big jar. Oh, I got a big jar of questions right here for you.
That's awesome. Yay.
So we'll get you on the show
Mhm.
and get you to sit down and pull some of those questions and see what doors we find. What other doors we find. Any kind of closing thoughts or any message? I think also too for selfishly, the way I'm framing this is kind of a message for me on the journey, kind of creating the nonprofit, trying to focus on those four things: the stigma, bringing about some and the other two, which is access and cost, and trying to do that through
Mhm.
education. I think education is a way to kind of help both a lot of this. So any advice for me, or cheerleading message or anything from a completely selfish standpoint? I've been doing this question as a close.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think part of what I would be thinking strategically about it
Hmm.
is thinking who has impact. And since social media, right, is such a big thing, who out there in social media is talking about
Talking about
um,
mental health.
who is talking about their mental health issues? Because, like
Mhm.
I said, people are doing it more and more. And so, I mean, I've got like a little following, right, for me. But like, there's other people out there that have a million followers that really listen to them, whether
Yeah.
it's TikTok or Instagram, and they can share their story and have that impact. Athletes, I know they go to treatment centers and talk. So, just in terms of a strategy, right, to have kind of that backing, and then I think there is an in with the people that have extra money to give. And I think that's kind of the thing too, is like
That's so
finding
true.
wherever
Yeah.
that is, right? And a lot of people in the sober companion world, if you're looking at, or the interventionist world, have access to those people.
The intervention people.
Yeah, because interventionists and sober companion people tend to work with really high net
Um,
worth clients, right? Because who can afford to have someone with them 24/7? You've
yeah.
got to have a lot of money to do that. And so it is a business out there. And I have a
That's a
really good
real
friend.
business. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a friend that works in it, and he'd probably be happy to talk with you about his experience as a sober companion and an interventionist. So just in terms of funding, right? I don't know how that would go about.
Love it.
Um, and then thinking of anything else in terms of education is that, you know, planning what you're offering as like these TED Talks, right? Like maybe
Hmm.
TED Talks
It's like little TED Talks.
like mini TED Talks, right? Where you have Huberman per se, right? Or different psychologists, like if come on, like if you can get them on to talk or do a little TED talk on this aspect of mental health for education. And then you do the blurb about, hey,
Hmm.
we're raising money for this. You start doing fundraisers, or I mean, I think the thing is that people in the mental health space want to give back too. So
I
if you find somebody who is really, there's this guy Wotality, I don't know his name, but he does breath work and he travels all over the country. And he seems like, I mean, I feel like they would want to give to you, right? They would want to
Yeah.
give it to you to be able to help more people, to reach more people. Yeah.
I love the TED Talks That's kind of accidentally what I think I've kind of stumbled upon with this is a little bit of a TED Talks idea. And if I can keep the structure good, it's getting experts on in the space and hearing from them and providing a platform for those people to share what they're doing, and then for listeners to kind of glean a little information from them.
Yeah. And obviously, business most likely, right? So market research is like what you're doing right now, but you also
Yeah.
need to find one that you want to emulate, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
find out and how they did it and who really is the mover and the shaker in making it happen or getting the word out there? Is it the marketing piece? Like, is it who you have on your TED Talk, or is it the funding piece? What is
Yeah.
it? What is the thing?
How's it going to work? Well, those are some great thoughts you're leaving me with, Alexis. That's awesome. I wrote those down. This is great stuff. I love the TED Talks. I'm looking for a name for the show because it's a little confusing. As you found out, it's a little confusing with the JAR podcast. So I love this TED Talks, and I've been playing with, mental health, today's mental health. There's a show called Mental Health Today. I really love that idea, that name, but that was taken. There's somebody doing that. And I don't want to be so copycat. I just want to be a little bit unique. So I'll wait for the universe. And and you gave me a little universe plug right there. I love it. That one,
I
the
think
TED Talks
so.
idea.
And I
I
think
like
we
it.
should think of like an acronym, like
Yeah.
some like glued or like something that has one word and each word stands for something else.
Yeah. I'm also an acronym fan.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
an
easy to
acronym fan.
remember that way too,
Yeah. And if it makes sense, I don't like to force them, but sometimes they do they come into a place where it's just perfect. And you're like, that's it. So there's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Alexis, thanks so much for your story.
You're welcome.
I just heard.
Story.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your story. Thanks everybody that's listening and watch the show. Maybe you're watching it afterwards. Really do appreciate it, and just share the word a little bit at this point. We're just kind of growing and sharing some stories like Alexis. I think that's it. I'm going to end the broadcast, Alexis. Hopefully, I drop us back into the green room and I don't lose you. So let's see what happens. If I do lose you, I'll reach out with you soon. Thanks, everybody.